Today on Up Front, the California billionaire working to defeat Governor Walker and House Speaker Paul Ryan. Progressive activist Tom Steyer on mobilizing young voters and why he's getting involved in Wisconsin's election. Plus, Tuesday's state Supreme Court race in the national spotlight. We'll ask two campaign strategists to handicap the race. And Governor Walker calls special elections for two vacant legislative seats. Assembly Minority Leader Gordon hints on how competitive Democrats will be.
Covering the issues important to Wisconsin. This is Up Front with Mike Goucher.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Up Front. Perhaps you've seen one of his TV ads. California hedge fund billionaire Tom Steyer is an environmentalist and progressive activist who may be best known for his television commercials calling for the impeachment of President Trump.
People in Congress and his own administration know that this president is a clear and present danger.
But Steyer is also pouring some big money into Wisconsin politics. He's launched an organization called Next Gen America to mobilize millennials to vote in the 2018 elections. And he's putting $2.5 million into Next Gen organizing efforts right here in Wisconsin, specifically targeting Republican Governor Scott Walker and House Speaker Paul Ryan for defeat. Today, we're asking why, and Tom Steyer joins us from our ABC affiliate in San Francisco. Mr. Steyer, thanks very much for being with us. And let's begin with the why here. Why are you looking at Wisconsin? Why are you targeting Governor Walker and Speaker Ryan?
Well, Mike, our goal at Next Gen is to create and enable the broadest possible democracy. And that means what we do is we're a grassroots organization that goes out and we specifically try and work with young voters on a registration, engagement, education and participation effort. And in Wisconsin, that's exactly what we're doing. We're going to be on 35 campuses, including 4 community colleges. We're going to have over 50 people working on it. And the idea is to get as many young voters engaged in the process, participating in our democracy, so we get the most just and the most intelligent decisions coming forward. So when we look at Wisconsin, we can see that Governor Walker and Speaker Ryan are people who have been on the extreme right in the United States, that Wisconsin has been a place where there has been an attempt to restrict voting, as opposed to what we're trying to do, which is have the broadest possible democracy. That's what we believe in, inclusive, broad democracy. And we feel like it's absolutely incumbent on to give the people of Wisconsin, particularly the young people, a chance for their voices to be heard and their votes to be counted.
Yeah, I want to have you respond to what some critics, Republicans, say. They'll say something along the lines of, well, here's a rich guy from California, from San Francisco, telling Wisconsinites how they should go about their business, who they should elect. Well, what do you say to people who say this is really not your concern?
I would say that as an American democracy is everyone's concern. And the fact of the matter is, anyone who's trying to restrict the vote or prevent young people from participating, who's trying to actually abridge our democracy, is completely out of line. Because what we're doing in trying to enable and empower young people is what I think of as the heart of the American democracy for hundreds of years. And in fact, this kind of patriotism is what we need at this point in America, because we're seeing a very radical right-wing attempt where their go-to move is to prevent American citizens from exercising their franchise, which is an absolute right of American citizens. And what we're trying to do is the opposite. We're trying to make sure that the broadest possible democracy is what happens in the United States. So from my standpoint, anyone who says that should check their whole card, because I'm seeing something, people who don't want Wisconsinites to vote, they don't want young people to vote, and they're scared to see what happens when we have a real democracy again.
Briefly, Mr. Steyer, you have talked in recent days about doing forums or debates in some states around the country. In Wisconsin, for example, we have a very hotly contested gubernatorial race, many Democratic candidates on the ballot. Would you see possibly having Next Gen America sponsor a forum or debate featuring the candidates for governor, the Democratic candidates for governor?
We absolutely would. Because the fact of the matter is, giving young voters a chance to see the different candidates, to hear what they stand for, that to me is something that has to go on, particularly when you have a crowded ballot the way that you guys do in this governor's race on the Democratic side. I think it's fantastic that so many people are so excited about this race in 2018 that they've put their own names forward. But for voters' sake, they need a chance to get the information as simply and clearly as possible, and that's what we're trying to enable.
I have to ask you about your continuing campaign, the need to impeach campaign. You have called for the impeachment of President Trump. Where does that stand right now? Are you going to continue on with this for a while, or is this something that has a beginning and an end?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't have an end. The fact of the matter is, Mike, that we have over 5 million people who've signed our petition calling for the impeachment of this reckless and lawless president. And we feel that every single day the evidence mounts that this is a man who does not respect the rule of law, who is dangerous to our democracy and dangerous to the health and safety of the American people.
Are you discouraged at all that more Democratic lawmakers in Washington have not joined your call for impeachment? There seem to be very few who've taken that step.
You know, Mike, if there's one thing that we've seen in American politics, is we've seen a sharp division between the electeds in Washington, D.C. and the people in the United States. So does it surprise me that we've had an overwhelming, surprisingly strong, continually strong response from the people of the United States and a surprisingly weak response from inside the Beltway crowd? Absolutely not. That is a reflection of what we're seeing in American politics. If you look and see just last weekend in the March for Our Lives, what we saw was high school students from around the United States saying to those electeds, including specifically Paul Ryan, what the heck are you doing? Your job is to make sure we're safe and you're not doing it. We insist you do it or we're going to make sure we vote you out. That's the exact same thing we're saying and need to impeach. Goodness gracious, isn't it time to tell some absolute truths the way those kids did last weekend and insist that our democracy work and that the will of the people be respected?
Tom Steyer is a California businessman who is spending some money in Wisconsin trying to influence the outcome of some big elections coming up in the coming year. Tom Steyer, thanks very much for being with us today. Appreciate it.
Mike, good to talk to you.
Coming up later on Up Front, the fight over 2 special elections for state legislature. I'll be asking a top Democrat for his take on how it all went down. But first, the closing days in the race for state Supreme Court. Why this race is being watched nationally. That's when Up Front continues.
Up Front with Mike Goucher, brought to you by the American Transmission Company.